So, what do we do? Do we ask permission or do we go behind his back and apologize if we have to? Eleanor Lewis asked her best friend Bella Rivera as they sipped cappuccinos at the coffee shop. Bella smiled crookedly. Reason tells me to tell him ahead of time so it won't be cheating, but logic tells me he'll say no if I do. Going behind his back and not getting caught seems like the more sensible solution, she said, her long platinum blonde hair catching a ray of sunlight coming through the sunroof. The mind can be so fickle. The important thing is that you don't get caught, Eleanor replied. Though everyone seems to get caught sooner or later. You know that, don't you? Yeah, but I'm hoping that by the time that happens, I'll have enough leverage that he'll just brush it off, Bella said. Aren't you sure you want to risk this? Charles is a great guy, Eleanor said. You two have been married a long time. That's why I think he'd let me continue if he catches us, Bella replied. I don't think he'll want to give up everything we've worked so hard for. In another 10 or 15 years, we'd be able to ride off into a nice retirement sunset. It's not like he'd have to worry about me falling in love with any of these guys. I know it sounds corny, but in this case, it would really just be an affair. I believe you, sis, but men don't think like us. They can't separate love from bedtime fun when it comes to their spouses. You be walking a fine line here, Eleanor commented. I know, but I have to do this, Bella insisted. I need to feel some excitement back in my life. Bella and Eleanor had been discussing this for the past 2 months, ever since Bella confided in her friend that she felt her life had fallen into a rut and saw only one way out. I need to feel the excitement of a new relationship, Bella explained. Remember how thrilling it was in high school, college, and even right after, when boys would notice you, chase you, and then woo you. How you spent all that time getting to know each other. I need that. I miss that. I adore Charles. He's an amazing man, a great father, a good provider, and a wonderful husband. But after all these years together, we know each other so well that there's no mystery left. Like B.B. King said, the thrill is gone. I need to feel that excitement again, Eleanor. I don't want to hurt Charles, but I have to do this for myself. I need to find a way to do this while causing him the least amount of pain. Ideally, he wouldn't find out, but if he must, it should come from me. I'm not looking for a divorce. I just need a bit of excitement for a while. Then, I believe I can return to being the best wife for Charles for the rest of our lives. I don't think Charles will be able to give you that, Bella, no matter how much he loves you, Eleanor replied. I know, Bella sighed. I really need to think this through carefully, Eleanor. He was standing at the bar with another student when Bella and her 3 friends walked into the small Mexican restaurant near campus. The 4 girls sat at a table, with Bella facing the 2 young men at the bar. I've seen the shorter one around campus before, but not the tall guy with the curly hair, Bella remarked to her friends. Do any of you know him? That's Charles Rivera, the science whiz, one of them replied. He's not much of a social butterfly. He's too busy being brilliant. Everyone says he'll start out at 6 figures with one of the big chemical companies. Wow, all that plus gorgeous blue eyes and a nice body. Ladies, I think I just found my future husband. I'm going in, Bella said, getting up from the table and heading towards the young man. Charles, though not a ladies' man, was familiar enough with women, but he'd never had someone as beautiful as Bella approach him. She wore tight Levi's jeans and an Iowa State t-shirt. Trying to play it cool, he couldn't help but blatantly check her out. Smooth, really smooth. You might want to wipe that drool off your chin, science guy. I'm Bella Thompson, by the way, she said, smiling as he struggled to form a coherent response. From that moment on, they were inseparable and married a year after graduation. Bella's outgoing, direct personality brought out the best in the quiet, reserved, and incredibly intelligent Charles. Away from work, he focused entirely on being everything Bella wanted and needed. In her presence, he could discuss many topics, be glib and charming, or even forceful when necessary. After 27 years of marriage, Charles's love for his wife and his life remained undiminished. He had worked diligently to balance his career and family, and believed he had succeeded. As vice president of research for a medical equipment firm, he and Bella had raised two exceptional children who were now attending prestigious colleges. They enjoyed a beautiful home, took wonderful vacations, managed their finances wisely, and were planning to retire at 60 to travel the world while still in good health. If asked, Charles would tell anyone who would listen that his marriage was nearly perfect. Bella thought that since Patrick Collins was the one who had set her on this path, he should be the first to benefit from it. The 35-year-old had twice asked Bella to lunch, only to be turned down both times, as she was happily married. So when she asked him to dinner a few weeks later, he squinted at her for several seconds before agreeing. "What's changed? Are you and your husband on the outs or something?" he asked. Bella wasn't sure how much she wanted to reveal, so she opted for a minimal answer. "Hubby and I are good. This is something I want. And it's outside of my marriage," she said. "And since you were bold enough to ask, fortune in this case favors the bold. All I will say is that I'm at a point in my life where I want a little excitement again. I'm a wife, a mother, and a professional, but I'm also a woman with needs and feelings. I think that part of my life has been neglected for some time, and I miss the spontaneity of my younger days. Wine me, dine me. Let's see where this leads," discreetly. "Message received. Thank you for giving me dibs," Patrick said. 2 weeks later, on a Thursday night, Bella and Patrick met for dinner at a high-end Jamaican restaurant on the outskirts of the city. She had told her husband a week earlier that she had a dinner meeting with a client and would be home around 11. Since she occasionally had dinner meetings for her job at a national communications company, Charles didn't think twice, especially since he trusted his wife completely. He didn't know she had packed a change of clothes in an overnight bag and had it in her car trunk when she left for work. Patrick was taken aback by Bella's attire as she exited her car in a short, tight blue dress, quite different from her usual work attire. He gazed at her, estimating her age to be around 40 despite her lengthy tenure at the company. "You're looking stunning, Bella. Quite the change from your earlier outfit," remarked Patrick. "I thought you deserved more than just business, Bella," she replied whimsically, making air quotes with her hands. He extended his hand to her, which she accepted, and together they entered the restaurant, embodying the facade of a couple for the evening. Bella's heart raced with excitement. This was precisely why she sought companionship outside her main relationship. Seated at the table, she locked eyes with Patrick's warm, brown gaze, observing the mocha hue of his skin and imagining the toned physique beneath his business suit. A bright smile adorned her face. "Are you part Jamaican? Is that why you chose this place?" inquired Bella. "Indeed I am," he affirmed. "My British grandparents married Jamaican women. My parents reside in England. My grandmothers were exceptional cooks, creating memorable dishes. I frequent this place monthly. Jamaican cuisine is comforting and delightful. Some dancing is up next on our agenda." Bella felt her heart quicken as Patrick embraced her tightly during their slow dance. She melted into his arms, basking in the strength he exuded. It felt as though all her senses were heightened. After dancing for about 45 minutes, Patrick proposed continuing the evening at his apartment. Initially taken aback by the bold suggestion, Bella soon realized it was precisely what she desired. She flashed a radiant smile at her younger date and nodded in agreement. Just as they had arrived independently at the restaurant and club, they drove to Patrick's apartment in their separate cars. Stepping inside, Bella couldn't help but notice the anticipation coursing through her. 45 minutes later, Bella lay on the bed next to Patrick, breathing heavily and perspiring from her encounter with a man other than Charles for the first time in 28 years. She couldn't help but notice the contrast in energy between a 35-year-old man like Patrick and a 50-year-old like her husband. This was exactly what she had in mind when she had made the decision to stray from her marriage. "After a few minutes, I should clean up and change back into my casual clothes," Bella informed Patrick. As she changed and freshened up, Bella realized that the expected guilt had not hit her as strongly as she thought it would. She took it as a positive sign. When she emerged from the bathroom, Patrick awaited her, still undressed. They shared a passionate kiss before she departed, assuring him that a repeat performance would please her in the future. Returning home at 11:15, Bella swiftly apologized to Charles for the delay caused by traffic. Her husband accepted her apology, recognizing her sincerity, as she planted a quick kiss on his lips and proceeded into the bathroom. That went smoother than expected, Bella mused to herself as she made her way past. All that worrying was for naught. After a series of encounters with Patrick, Bella decided to diversify her experiences as per her plan. Although she continued seeing Patrick, another man was introduced into the mix, followed shortly by a third. Exploring relationships with all three, both in and out of the bedroom, proved to be exhilarating and fulfilling her craving for new excitement. Feeling rather pleased with her scheme, Bella found herself meeting her lovers twice a week. The novelty of engaging in different activities and discussions with new people was just as rewarding. Realizing that bedtime entertainment had become somewhat secondary, in part because her lovers were not distinctly superior to her husband, Bella pondered expanding her circle to ensure things stayed fresh. "Is that your wife?" James Davis hesitantly asked Charles as he peered at a diagram on his computer screen from behind the older man. On Charles' desk, pictures of Bella and his two children were always displayed on the left, just to the right of his monitor placed at the corner. Charles detected the uncertainty in James' voice as he observed the younger man taking a step back. Promptly, he gestured towards a chair across from his desk and urged James to sit down. Having worked with Charles for 3 years, James was well regarded by the older man, who saw a promising future for him within the company. Charles admired the 27-year-old for his good looks and respectful demeanor, envisioning him as the type of man he would approve of for his daughter to marry, should she choose to do so in the future. "Something seems amiss, James. You have the look of someone who's seen a ghost." "Oh, you have encountered a ghost, haven't you, James?" Charles remarked, his expression registering sudden realization. Seeing James lower his gaze, Charles rose to shut and lock his office door before resuming his seat, his gaze piercing through the young man, the quiet intensifying in the room. "I wasn't aware she was your wife. I truly had no idea," James confided in a hushed voice, still avoiding eye contact. "I knew she was married. She mentioned she had an understanding with her husband. I absolutely did not know she was your wife." In a swift succession of emotions, Charles transitioned from concern to anger and then to nausea. It felt as if a tumultuous storm had erupted in his composed mind, inundating him with a barrage of inquiries and reflections. "After how many instances didn't you know she was my wife?" Charles finally inquired after a brief pause. 3, no 4, James responded, reducing the actual count in an attempt to soften the blow. Fighting back tears, Charles detected James' mental calculations, suspecting him of understating the figures to alleviate Charles' distress. Following a prolonged silence, Charles eventually managed to whisper, "How? Why?" Meeting Charles' gaze, James gathered the unspoken inquiry conveyed in Charles' eyes. "We first met around 4 months ago at a bar with a dance floor. She was in the company of another man. They appeared as a couple, especially when they danced. We shared a dance or two and conversed. I inquired if they were exclusive, and she informed me they were not. She agreed to a date with me for the following week, and we have since met occasionally." Charles inquired, "So, getting together means sleeping, right?" James looked down and simply nodded. "She mentioned that you and she had an understanding. She was dating and sleeping with other men, with your knowledge," he said. "I swear I had no idea she was your wife." "I swear," James insisted. "Well, you did know she belonged to someone else," Charles pointed out. "Yeah, but she was already involved with someone. Initially, I assumed she was his wife, but I noticed he wasn't wearing a ring," James explained. James gazed directly at Charles and visibly made a decision. "Turns out she's dating several men, including me and this other guy," James whispered. "So you're saying that you not only didn't authorize this, but you were unaware?" Charles responded, "That's an accurate assessment." The two men exchanged a silent gaze. "I apologize, Charles. I'll end things with her," James promised. "I'd appreciate that. And please, don't tell her about our conversation." "I need to figure things out," Charles requested. James stood up, unlocked the door, and left quietly. Charles remained seated, staring at his computer almost aimlessly for the next hour until it was time to leave for home. He realized that things between his wife and himself had been strained for the past year. Their conversations had become sparse, she was working longer hours, and their intimacy had dwindled significantly. Questions about her well-being were met with monosyllabic responses. That night, as usual on evenings they both returned early, Bella was cooking dinner in the kitchen when Charles entered. Instead of going to her for a customary kiss before changing, he slumped in a chair at the kitchen table, his eyes glazed with tears. Bella glanced at her husband and could tell that he was aware of something. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she felt rooted in place. "How long has this been going on, Bella? Why don't you love me anymore?" Charles murmured, trying hard to suppress his emotions. Bella couldn't hold back her tears. "It's been around a year, but I do love you, baby. It's not about not loving you," she said tearfully. Charles raised his eyebrows, silently urging her to elaborate. "I crave excitement and new experiences in my life. Everything else has become secondary," Bella admitted. Charles winced. "We have been together for 28 years, with 27 of those spent in marriage. Over these countless moments, we have intimately known each other, both physically and mentally. Even as we explore new experiences, it is always with the familiarity of the same person. I sensed a need within me for freshness and vitality, a desire for new connections on an intimate level. I contemplated seeking your approval beforehand to ensure transparency, but past experiences have suggested that may not end well. So I decided to pursue it and discuss it with you now. I am aware of your love for me, and I believe that upon reflection, you will understand and grant me this, knowing that I love you just as deeply. I believe I have earned this. I have upheld my roles as a devoted wife and mother." Interrupting, Charles remarked, "While I am confident in my capabilities as a husband and father, I would never presume that I have the right to seek relationships outside of our marriage based on that." Bella's frustration simmered at the interruption, but resumed once Charles concluded his thoughts. "This isn't about my affection for you, darling, nor does it involve feelings for anyone else. I do not harbor love for them. It's simply that the dynamism between us has grown stagnant. I continue to crave, the spark of something fresh and exhilarating. For a temporary period, I longed for novelty. Once that thirst is quenched, I will return to being solely yours, forever. We can then relish in growing old together, in comfort and familiarity. Time is on our side." Bella regarded Charles with a condescending gaze, while he reciprocated with a look of bewilderment. Charles shared his perspective, saying, "Marriage is a journey, Bella. It commences with fervor and zest, with new emotions and discoveries, and gradually transitions into a tranquil, enduring comfort. Every aspect is part of an evolving experience, much akin to raising children. Seeking rejuvenation by engaging with other men is simply a means to justify your betrayal, and I refuse to accept it." Resistance flaring, Bella challenged, "You refuse to accept it. You don't dictate my choices. I will see whom I wish when I wish." Acknowledging, he responded firmly, "I may not control you, but we entered into vows together, and breaking them out of boredom is not how a marriage functions. If this is truly your desire, then you should have had the courage to seek a divorce. Since you lack that resolve, I will initiate the process." Expressing her dissent, Bella uttered, "Divorce is not what I desire. I simply seek time to sort through my thoughts." Firmly, Charles asseverated, "No, you wish to keep me as a contingency plan. You find solace in our familiarity, intending to return to the boring old Charles once your vacation is over. Date around, and when you tire, come back to me. We have been wed for 27 years. Bella's outcry continued, "Do I not deserve a modicum of consideration?" Counteracting her question, Charles questioned, "How many have you been unfaithful with, Bella? Did I not deserve any consideration?" Bella's response consisted of a huff, followed by a reflective silence. "How did you find out?" she inquired, speaking in a quieter and seemingly calmer tone than before. "First, answer my question, darling. How many men?" Charles asked. "If recalling them all is too difficult, just name the closest dozen." "Damn it, Charles. That's uncalled for, she snapped. Really, Bella? Charles retorted. I'm aware of at least 5, and given that I only found out recently, I suspect there are far more. Give me time, and I'll uncover the truth. Despite only knowing about 2 men Bella had been involved with, Charles, a skilled card player, decided to bluff by naming a definitive number after James hinted at more partners for her. Bella hesitated slightly, then settled down across from Charles. For the first time, a sense of guilt flashed across her face, and Charles, drawing from 28 years of experience, realized his bluff might be too low. She started sobbing quietly, indicating that she was done talking for the night and using her tears as a means to avoid admitting defeat. Remaining at the table with Bella for a few more minutes, Charles eventually headed upstairs to change clothes. He decided to order a pizza for himself, having a 12-pack of Thompson High Life in the fridge. As for dinner, his soon-to-be ex-wife could fend for herself. After her tears subsided, Bella sat at the table lost in contemplation. Unimportant as it seemed, she noted that Charles never divulged how he uncovered her infidelity. She made a conscious decision not to press him on this, as she was aware he could easily retaliate by probing into her own rendezvous. Although she bristled with anger when he insinuated that her liaisons could exceed a dozen, she knew his estimate was eerily accurate. Over the past 9 months of her escapades, she had been intimate with 9 men repeatedly and engaged in 3 one-night encounters. It was her ardent hope that Charles would never uncover her secret trysts. With genuine love for him, Bella harbored aspirations of revitalizing their marriage once she put an end to her dalliances. While the possibility of getting caught had always lingered at the back of her mind, she held on to the belief that Charles loved her enough to overlook her transgressions. Exceedingly grateful for his tolerance, Bella vowed to demonstrate her devotion daily by becoming the best wife she could possibly be for him. Although not entirely surprising, Bella felt a pang of hurt as Charles retreated to their son's former bedroom come bedtime. We've never spent a night apart in all our years together. Why break that streak now? We've been together while I was being unfaithful, Bella expressed. Charles looked suddenly unwell, rushing to the bathroom to vomit up his pepperoni lover's pizza. Bella dampened a cloth and left it on the counter for him before retiring to bed alone. Charles lay fitfully in their son's room through the night. The following morning, subdued silence pervaded as the couple prepared for work. Just as Charles was about to leave for his car, Bella informed him she would be home 90 minutes late due to work commitments. Her words barely left her mouth before her realization of an error set in. Oh damn, how many times did you use that excuse to see someone else? Is that what this is now? Charles inquired, cutting straight to the heart of the matter. In truth, that was precisely the case. Bella had scheduled a lunch date with a man she had met the previous week. The gravity of the situation dawned on her only as she had mentioned the late hours to her husband, a consideration that had not surfaced until the day prior. Yes, I have plans to meet someone. I apologize. I arranged this meeting last week, and I did mention late work commitments a couple of days ago, she confessed. Yes, work was often your alibi, whether it was late nights at work or meeting clients, but not all of it was false. Sometimes your work did require you to stay late, Charles acknowledged. I guess I should cancel my appointment. I didn't think. You're planning to continue seeing other men for the foreseeable future, right? Charles queried. Yes, I don't intend to stop. I had planned to continue for some time, Bella admitted. Well then, you can go ahead and be with this guy too, Charles stated starkly, causing Bella to flinch. With that, he made his way to the garage, got in his car, and drove off to work. This didn't go as expected, Bella ruminated silently to herself. Charles couldn't believe he made it to the office without an accident. The drive seemed like a blur, and suddenly he found himself in the parking lot. But once he settled at his desk, focusing on work was impossible. His mind swirled with thoughts of how many times his wife had been with other men in the past 9 months. She claimed that bedtime entertainment was of secondary importance, but he couldn't shake the feeling that she was lying, like when she'd said she was late for work. Once the trust had been broken, by 9:15, he decided to seek legal advice from a friend who specialized in family law. Securing an appointment for 5, he reasoned that since his wife wouldn't be home, he might as well use his time productively. As he sat at the kitchen table, indulging in takeout Italian, Bella arrived home and entered the kitchen. Their eyes met briefly before she headed upstairs. Charles observed her unchanged hair and makeup, indicating she had tidied up after her appointment before returning to work. When she descended in casual attire, Charles couldn't ignore the fact that she hadn't showered. In a hushed tone, he confronted her. "How many times did you give me sloppy seconds?" The revelation of her dating life to her husband, whom she couldn't bring herself to call her affairs, had a profound impact on their relationship. She recognized the look of disdain in his eyes, causing her to cringe before responding. "I should smack you," Bella exclaimed, her voice seething with anger. "You disrespectful jerk. I'd never treat you like this." Charles smirked at her outburst, relishing in causing her pain. "And just like I never thought you'd cheat on me," he retorted calmly. "You've proven that I don't know you as well as I believed." She let out a loud sigh and rolled her eyes. "Go ahead, act like the victim," she shot back. With an air of self-righteousness, he responded, "Fine, I will. You labeling me as disrespectful is the height of hypocrisy. Your lies and infidelity have been a tremendous disrespect to our marriage. Even you can't deny that." "I'm not disrespecting you. I've told you before. I'm exploring new experiences and connections," she defended. Charles spat back. "You can call it what you want, but breaking our wedding vows is disrespectful, no matter how you spin it." Bella was taken aback when divorce papers were served to her the following week on a Wednesday night. Initially shocked, her shock soon gave way to anger as she opened the familiar manila envelope on her way from the front door. "I thought you would give me the benefit of the doubt, Charles. Are you really willing to throw away 27 years because I want to try new things while you're content with aging?" Bella lamented. "What made you think I'd let you test the waters with other men for a year and still expect us to remain married? Do I look like I've had a lobotomy?" Charles responded calmly. "Why can't you understand that this is about exploring new opportunities and people, not about disrespecting you?" she argued. "And yet most of your dates end the same way, don't they?" Charles observed. Shocked, she questioned, "How do you know that?" "I didn't know until now, but men are predictable. If a certain option is on the menu, they'll order it," he remarked. Frustrated, Bella walked away. With her dating life no longer a secret, she felt emboldened to return home later, even past midnight after subsequent outings. To her surprise and annoyance, Charles was waiting for her when she arrived, mirroring how he waited up for their children when they were out on dates. "Have you ever tried line dancing? It was so much fun last night," Bella mentioned to Charles over breakfast before they headed to work. His eyebrows shot up in surprise at this unexpected revelation. "So now you're sharing details of your dates with me? How delightful. Was the bed comfortable too?" he snidely asked. A smirk crossed her face as she responded, "Indeed, usually quite comfortable. But here's the thing, dear. She's always soft," Charles pointed out. "You can deny it all you want, but that's the key issue. It makes you nothing but a why we're headed for a divorce." "This won't end in divorce, Charles." "So you say, Bella." After waiting a week, Charles called his children to break the news of the divorce. He was taken aback by Layla's insights. She appeared well-informed and seemed to be siding with her mother in the split. "Can't you see that she still loves you and might return?" Layla tried to reason with him. "For me, eventually is too late," Charles responded. "I can't accept sharing my wife. The fact that she has been involved with multiple men for almost a year indicates her love for me isn't as deep as she claims." "You shared 27 wonderful years, and she still cares for you, Dad," Layla insisted. "She just wants some new experiences. You are content with the way things are. Please don't let her pursuit of different paths be the end for both of you." "But she's being unfaithful," Charles stated firmly. "I can't turn a blind eye to that. We made vows to be faithful till death do us part." "After being an outstanding wife and mother for 27 years, doesn't she deserve some leniency?" Layla pressed on. "What do you gain from divorcing her? Living alone in a dull apartment for the rest of your life. Staying with her could earn you her lifetime commitment, with her doing everything to make you happy. Shouldn't she reciprocate the same level of devotion I have shown her? Charles questioned. I have stayed true to my vows, even when it would have been just as simple to break them as she did. Are you truly backing her actions? Does Nate even know about your support for this? Charles questioned. I might have to check in with him to see how he feels. I trust you wouldn't do that to me, Dad. That's crossing a line, Layla replied. Just wait and see. Nate deserves to know what's going on and your perspective, as it'll affect him down the line, Charles insisted. Daddy, please, Layla pleaded. I'd never do that to Nate. Then why do you support Mom doing it to me? Charles challenged. If you find this acceptable, you might do it to your husband one day. Do you find this behavior acceptable? Charles pressed. Layla hesitated, confirming Charles' suspicions. When Bella and Charles' son, Ed, learned about the divorce and Charles' reasons, he fully supported his father. I never thought she'd go this far, Dad, Ed remarked, firmly backing his father's stance. A week later, on a Saturday night, Bella sat on the living room sofa, watching her husband in his la-z-boy on the other side of the room. It suddenly struck her that it had been months, perhaps even weeks, since they had cuddled on the sofa or shared a hug or a kiss. Caught up in her own pursuits, she hadn't noticed the absence of intimacy with Charles. She wondered why he hadn't brought it up or made a move. Charles, honey, why don't you come over here and we can snuggle, maybe have some fun? It's been a while, right? You're not too old for that kind of thing, are you? Bella suggested. I'm okay, darling. I still enjoy being intimate, but ever since I discovered you were unfaithful, I can't bring myself to touch you. I got myself tested too after finding out about your infidelity. Dr. Victoria seemed quite surprised, Charles revealed. Oh, my goodness. You went to Dr. Victoria. What will he think? That you've been unfaithful. Yes, I think he got the message loud and clear, Charles replied. No, Bella moaned. Just once, could you think about someone other than yourself? This will spread throughout town soon enough, if it hasn't already. Now you've revealed yourself as a cuckold, darling. Quasera Sarah, Charles said tonelessly. I didn't want to take any risks knowing you're being reckless. You've already shattered my heart. I didn't need another part of me broken as well. You're something else, you know that. Bella hissed. So we're done sleeping together. Can you handle that? With a growl, she stormed out of the room. Bella's most recent flame declared, I love married women, with enthusiasm. You try to blame everything on your husband, but deep down, you just want some excitement on the side. Bella's companion failed to notice her frown at his comment. The man was just 25 years old. Bella reclined on her back and peered at, what was his name again? Gregory Morris. Even though she found him handsome, Bella admitted there was nothing extraordinary about him. His physique was average, he danced well, but conversationally, he lacked depth unless it revolved around baseball. Every single one of Bella's encounters eventually led to the bedroom. She often rationalized that these rendezvous were about exploring new connections, but in reality, they were simply escapades with unfamiliar partners. Mulling over her actions, Bella contemplated the idea of rekindling things with her husband. The challenge, however, was how to approach the situation. The major hurdle to reconnecting with Charles was his reluctance to be intimate with Bella since discovering her infidelity. Though she believed Charles still harbored feelings for her, winning him back would be far easier if they could share a bed again. How do I get him back between the sheets? He sequestered himself in Ed's room and is as abstinent as a monk, Bella confided in Eleanor Lewis during a lunch discussion. I'd bet his right hand has calluses from. Eleanor interjected, saying, You could be in a real mess, girlfriend, if you can't bring him back to bed. I thought you had a backup plan. I thought being together for 28 years was a solid contingency. We had a wonderful marriage. Bella trailed off, questioning her past actions. If your marriage was so great, why jeopardize it? Many women would envy having a spouse like Charles, Eleanor pointed out. I was naive, thinking I was clever enough to have it all. I still can't figure out how he found out, Bella confessed. It's too late to dwell on that now, Eleanor responded. Charles was unfamiliar with the lifestyle of a bachelor after being out of practice for so long. Initially, his days were consumed by work, and his evenings consisted of returning to a solitary apartment to whip up a meal of frozen pizza or Pop-Tarts. As time passed, he began to explore a new world with a group of friends, discovering single professionals in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. Observing his peers, Charles noticed that many middle-aged men were drawn towards younger women in their 20s and 30s. While he understood the appeal, he also recognized a surplus of older women who seemed overlooked. Some attractive older women found companionship with younger men, similar to what his ex-wife had done. However, there were still plenty of decent-looking women available, as indicated by the absence of wedding rings on their left hands. Charles always made it a point to check for a ring to avoid causing the same pain that had been inflicted on him. During a conversation one evening, Tom, one of his friends, argued, "Just because she's married doesn't mean she's off limits. She might just be seeking some enjoyment. What harm could it do?" Charles disagreed, stating, "She belongs to someone else, Tom. That's where the problem lies. I refuse to participate in betraying someone's trust. I've experienced the pain of infidelity, and I won't inflict it on another person." Despite what some of his friends labeled as his peculiar standards, Charles discovered there were plenty of single women available. Some sought a serious relationship, while others were interested in more casual encounters. Charles was open to spending time with both groups and had several flings over the following year. Charles harbored doubts about ever finding a love as profound as the one he had shared with Bella during their 28-year marriage. Before Bella's desire for exploration changed things, Charles believed their relationship was close to perfect. Admitting to himself that finding someone akin to the original Bella was likely an unattainable feat. Sitting alone at a table meant for five, Stella Murphy kept a close eye on the drinks, mindful of potential drink spiking in a world where women had to be vigilant. Charles decided to approach her and introduce himself. Guessing she was a few years younger than him, with either a deep tan or a mixed-race background, shoulder-length straight black hair, and expressive, large brown eyes, he observed her subtly moving to the music. "Mind if I join you?" Charles asked, pointing to the vacant seat beside her. "Please do," she responded with a warm smile. "It's nice to have someone to converse with. Quite the change from babysitting the youngsters tonight." As Charles settled into the seat, she explained, "It's girls' night out for the young ones in the office. I'm here to ensure everyone gets home safely. I'm the only one who didn't have to show ID to enter. Stella Murphy, by the way." Amused, Charles introduced himself, remarking about how it had been ages since someone had asked for his ID. The conversation between Charles and Stella was interrupted as three younger women returned to the table from the dance floor, all smiling at him and taking seats. Stella briefly paused the conversation to introduce everyone. Each of the 20-somethings greeted him politely. "Wonder where Mary Jo went off to?" Stella inquired after the introductions. "She's in the ladies' room after the last dance," one young redhead seated next to Charles replied. "Let's give her a few minutes, and then someone should check on her," Stella directed the group, scanning their faces. "Got it, Mom," one of the girls acknowledged. "I've never lost track of any of them at a girls' night out. Not starting tonight," she assured Charles. "That's commendable. Do you accompany them all the time?" he asked. "If it's a night out for the girls, then yes. But when they go out on their own, well, they're independent. I'm just the old mother hen after a divorce. 2 drinks maximum, then I switch to iced tea," she chuckled. "Does Mom ever get a chance to dance?" Charles inquired with a smile, causing Stella to blush. "Not often enough, we reckon," the redhead replied as the others grinned. "So, you all don't mind if I take her out for a bit, if she agrees," Charles proposed. Stella gave a nod of approval, and the younger women encouraged the pair onto the dance floor. Charles noticed Stella's curvaceous figure hidden beneath her understated outfit. Despite not being the best dancer, Charles boldly led in a slow dance, holding her closely. She enjoyed the closeness and strength in his arms. Charles, too, relished the moment. With Stella's phone number secured and a date set for the following Friday, Charles bid farewell. "Well done, Mom," one of the younger women complimented as they left the bar. Bella decided to pause her dating life until the divorce was finalized, hoping that it might convince Charles to reconsider ending the marriage. She expressed her frustration and anger towards Charles for not willing to reconcile after years of marriage. "You betrayed me, first in secret and then blatantly, without thinking about me, my feelings, or the consequences of your actions. What were you thinking, Bella?" Charles reproached her when she pleaded for reconciliation. "It didn't mean anything. I just wanted to break away from the monotony, to experience something new. Our relationship had become stagnant," she explained. "It meant something to me, Bella. If you truly cared for me, you should have sought a divorce first before being unfaithful, you egocentric woman," he retorted angrily. Stella empathized with Charles, knowing he needed time to trust another partner with his heart after his past experiences. Having divorced a cheating spouse a decade ago, she had faced similar struggles. Charles was touched by Stella's nurturing demeanor towards her younger coworkers, a reflection of her inherent motherly instincts despite not having children of her own. More than a year after their first date, the couple had a modest wedding, with Charles proposing just 6 months into their relationship, confident that Stella would safeguard his heart forever. Charles's son served as his best man, while one of Stella's coworkers from their initial meeting was the maid of honor. Although Charles's daughter initially harbored reservations about her father remarrying, she eventually recognized that Stella was the ideal match. Following the ceremony, Layla, Charles's daughter, entrusted Stella with these words, "Take care of him, and Dad will love you forever. He's as loyal as a street Bernard." Over a decade later, the couple retired and embarked on a journey around the country, cherishing time with their grandchildren and immersing themselves in ballroom dance classes and local events. The bond between them remained strong, and they rarely spent time apart. Once Bella finalized her divorce, she resumed dating multiple men, feeling like she had nothing left to lose. While she was still considered attractive for her age, entering her 50s meant that her dates were no longer the handsome men she used to attract. Now single, Bella took advantage of the freedom to have overnights and even spend full weekends with her current romantic interests. Despite her reluctance to admit it, engaging in these relationships filled her time. "I miss him every day," she confided in her friend Eleanor Lewis during a lunch 5 years after the divorce. "I know you warned me. I should have been content with the good man I had. I regret my foolish actions. I was a stupid, stupid whore." She didn't even realize that she had actually deprived herself of everything that had once been dear and important to her. It was the silent revenge of karma. Her life was effectively ruined, and it would never be the same again. Thank you for watching this video to the end. If you liked it, please like it and subscribe to the channel. See you soon.